As you may have heard, China held its 2025 China Victory Day Parade in early September, with Chinese President Xi Jinping flanked by Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. The first time the leaders of these countries have been seen together like this since 1959. With the U.S. under Donald Trump seemingly in many ways abandoning its traditional global roles and allies, I thought it'd be a good time to take a quick look at where China is now through a few different lenses. Since we opened with the Victory Day Parade, let's start militarily. So China used the parade to show off a variety of advanced equipment, including revealing publicly for the first time its new land, air, and sea nuclear-capable missiles, a triad of destruction that's only shared by the U.S., Russia, India, and probably Israel. These were shown alongside a host of other technologies, some of which seemed specifically aimed at giving the U.S. cause for restraint in the South China Sea and beyond. As you may know, China claims sovereignty over almost the entirety of the South China Sea, even though there are at least a handful of other countries who are supposed to control those waters according to international law. Now, this hasn't stopped China from building artificial islands and investing over $50 billion in military infrastructure in the sea. And not only does this allow them to control an area through which almost one-third of global maritime trade flows at an estimated value of $3.4 trillion a year, there are also enormous oil and gas reserves under those same waters. But how can they control these waters? Well, after years in planning and investment, it's estimated that China's shipbuilding capacity is now as much as 200 times that of the United States. In fact, 60% of global shipbuilding orders this year have been at Chinese shipyards, and the Chinese Navy now has more warships than the U.S. Navy. But to be clear, the U.S. still has more large ships, submarines, and aircraft carriers, but that's likely exactly why China featured weapons like its new hypersonic anti-ship missiles at the parade too, which were specifically designed for use against U.S. aircraft carriers. Among other technologies demonstrated were unmanned helicopters and drones. In fact, China controls almost 90% of the global market for commercial drones, and the parade included a variety of AI-powered military drones, as well as a 60-foot-long submarine drone, a stealth attack drone to accompany manned fighter jet missions, and even four-legged robot wolves designed for hunting down enemy soldiers, sweeping minefields, reconnaissance, and more. Now, speaking of robots and AI, another area where China has executed a plan over decades with a level of focus and clarity that seems to be beyond most Western countries is relative to the rare earth metals used to manufacture electronics. While many of these minerals are thankfully more plentiful than their name might suggest, China has a near monopoly on refining them and has demonstrated its ability to tighten the global supply chain in absolutely devastating ways. Turning to other tech, we recently discussed on the show how China also dominates the global electric vehicle industry, with more than 70% of last year's global EV production. It also controls between 70 to 90% of every stage of the value chain globally for lithium-ion batteries. Beyond that, for manufacturing in general, China's output is almost one-third of the global output and bigger than the US, Japan, Germany, and India combined. And that's a tripling of Chinese manufacturing output in just 20 years. So what's my point? I guess it's just that we need to look around at our day-to-day lives and better understand exactly how much of what we use is so reliant on China. That was okay when the global trading order was a priority for the U.S. and the rest of the world, but Trump has shown us we can't rely on that world really ever coming back. So it's time for the rest of us to get our countries in order because we're living under two superpowers who no longer feel much reluctance about bullying or punishing anyone they feel crosses them. And the consequences, given what I've just said, could be terrifying. I'm the Other Mac.